In this video, I'm going to walk you through my basic process for collecting resources for a literature review. Now, normally when we're trying to find information, we use the internet. We start by going to a search engine like Google. Now, say that I want to do a literature review on educational games, and maybe using educational games in a specific context, like educational games for mathematics education or elementary mathematics education. If I just come in and type in educational games, I'm going to get tons of results, and these results are going to be from range from everything from people's opinions to news stories to companies that produce educational games like FunBrain. Even if I narrow it down some more and put it in mathematics elementary, the same thing's going to happen. Now I'm going to get Google trying to sell me things. I'm going to get companies that are focused on elementary math education, and all these are good and everything, but if I click on them, if I look at these aren't useful for a literature review in the sense that they do not give us any research evidence or empirical evidence related to the value of educational games for teaching and learning. Yes, I can do a Google search and find hundreds of sites related to educational games, and I can say, look at this. Look at how many people are using this, how exciting this is, and I could go write a lengthy paper on all the things that are being done in educational games. But that's not the purpose of a literature review. The purpose of a literature review is to establish what the research shows. What is the empirical evidence related to the topic that you're exploring? So none of this would help me do that. And again, the reason is that this is not geared toward researchers, and because what we're seeing here is biased. It's not being published in a third-party source. It's not being peer-reviewed. It's being put on the web by companies or individuals that are pushing to sell a product or have an agenda. So with that, we need to understand that we need to start by going to sources that are academic sources that will give us empirical evidence or reports on empirical evidence, and that are maybe not free of bias, but that are not as driven by bias as would be a private organization or an individual. So as a university student, you have access to your university's library system, and your library helps to organize a lot of resources that you can search for. So if you go to the library website, you can see here a search area for books, articles, and other things. If you knew a specific journal that you wanted to explore, so say I wanted to look at educational games, see if there was a journal that was focused on educational games, I could do a search for that. I could also come in and browse through here or choose a subject category. So here we have education, and here I can break it down a little bit further. So if I want to look at let's see, so maybe special topics in education, I could get in there. If I wanted to think about some of the theory behind educational games, I might go in there. But this is kind of a difficult way of getting to it, right? Unless you know exactly what you're looking for, this isn't going to get us there very quickly. So we still want to use a search engine whenever possible. So there are a few options to do that. One is Google Scholar Search, so scholar.google.com. This is a collection of a variety of publications that we can search through. This is not as maybe rigorous as would be a search engine that is completely focused on educational research or research generally, because Google includes lots of things in here, including patents, including blog posts that will be listed along with really reputable research articles. So even when we use Google Scholar, we still need to be careful and be clear on what are the criteria that we're looking for in the resources that we're looking for. So if I just type in educational games, mathematics, let's do elementary mathematics, here I get quite a few results. I get 122,000 results. Now I could narrow this down a little bit. There are some ways to narrow it down over here, so I could remove patents so those don't come through. But here I can just start. So notice that this is a book. So if it's a book, that means it's published by a publisher. Means it's probably not peer reviewed, meaning that it probably hasn't gone through a process where the researcher or the author has submitted the work for others to anonymously review it. So by looking at this, well, this takes me to another database, but this shows me that this probably is an author's interpretation of something, not necessarily a report on a study. Now, that might not be the case. I can go look into it some more, but whenever I see book, I think automatically, well, this probably isn't empirical evidence. So this might be a good place to give me some ideas for what I'm thinking about, but it's not going to give me evidence. As I scroll down, you notice that the sources are listed here. So ERIC is an academic research search engine that we'll talk about a little bit more later. But this allows me to see very quickly where my information is coming from. So notice here, Journal of Educational and Computing Research. So when I see this, I see that it's a journal. It's published by a publisher that's well known. But just the fact that it's a journal lets me know that this is something that maybe I should think about or look at a little bit more. I don't see, this doesn't seem to directly relate to what I'm interested in, so I'm going to keep going. I'm going to skip this one because it's a book. This one's a journal. It's kind of cut off, but the effectiveness of games for educational purposes. So this is a review of recent research. So this is actually great, but the problem is it's published in 1992. So if I relied solely on this, this wouldn't give me a current understanding of educational games. Now, it might give me some theoretical understanding and some understanding of the early work in the area, so it might be something valuable to start looking at, but this is by no means an end-all of what I need. Keep going down. We see a few different links, math tutoring systems, but we really just have to go through these one by one and consider, what is a good resource and what's not a good resource. So this one, even though it says it's HTML, which means it's a web page, you notice that it's in a journal called Computers in Education, which is actually a very reputable journal. So really what this means is this is published in an open access form, so I can gain access to this on the web directly. And you'll also notice when I come here, up here it shows me brought to you by University of Idaho Library. There are lots of things that I might see on Google Scholar that I may not have full access to unless I am present on a university campus connecting through a university network, because the university purchases access to a number of library resources, and some of those include journals. So if you're searching on Google Scholar at home, you might see a link to something and you may not have full access to it, but if you're at the university, you can search for it here and you can gain full access to it that way. So Google Scholar is useful for finding journal articles this way. Again, a lot of times though, you may not have direct access to the article and you have to sift through a lot of information. There are other search engines that are more focused on education. So another example would be ERIC, so eric.ed.gov. And so here you would not be getting results that are unrelated to education. You wouldn't be getting, for instance, blog posts. You wouldn't be getting things published in maybe a computer journal. Similarly, EBSCO is another academic search engine, EBSCO Search Premier, and here you can cut down a lot of the waste that you get, a lot of the irrelevant results that you get by narrowing it down. Notice again, it knows that I'm on campus, so it's going to give me access to things that I wouldn't have access to if I weren't on campus. So as I conduct my literature reviews, I typically go through the process of searching for a number of different queries. So thinking through what are the different terms that I need to use. As I find good articles, I go through those articles and look at what they link to. So this article, if it's related to my topic, I can go down to the work cited at the end, to the reference section. This is a long article. And here I can see everything that these authors have cited as well. So as I read this article, as I think about how this relates to my topic, I can also come down here and see, well, what are these other articles and how do they relate to my topic? Depending on where I am, I might have a direct link. So this, I can just click the link and go to it, but it's not active anymore. or it might at least give me some search terms that I can then use. So say this one, I don't have a link to this paper, but this looks like this would be relevant for what I'm interested in studying. So I can just um, copy the title or copy the author and do a search for that directly. And so now I can find that. So that appears to be a book, which again is not linked to. But so um, doing a literature review typically involves doing a variety of searches. So starting with a few keyword searches that are directly related to your topic. As you start to find some literature, going through the references that they use, looking at the topics that they bring up, and doing additional searches to bring that up. So say, or to flesh that out. So say that I'm looking at educational games in elementary mathematics, and what I'm finding though is that all the research papers, or lots of the research papers, are talking about educational games as cognitive tools. So that right there shows me that that is a key word that maybe I should be searching for as well. So now if I do educational games and cognitive tools, it's going to open up a whole new window of articles that I can start to look through. So doing a literature review is kind of like a treasure hunt in many ways. You have to find the really good articles. You have to look at and really consider, well, is this a strong article? Is this valuable, or is this just someone's opinion? And then use that to gain clues for finding new articles.